Day 2 of our basic social studies introduction unit. Yesterday, we compared and contrasted democracy and monarchy. Today, we will add oligarchy to the mix. Monarchy, you may remember, means one person rules. The historical example of a government ruled by one person is a king. The more modern example are business CEOs, entrepreneurs, sole proprietors, basically anyone that owns or operates a business within the United States. While that's not a nation, it is very similar in that one person calls all the shots, and the people do not have any say. Employees do not get to vote on the decisions of the businesses, just like in the past, the citizens of a kingdom did not get to vote on the rules. The rules and the direction of the nation was set by the king. One of the benefits of not having to write the rules, one of the benefits of not having the responsibility of writing rules and deciding the direction of the nation is people do not often fight because there's nothing to fight over. There's nothing to debate because you don't get to decide. But the downside, the trade-off to that benefit, to that solution is you don't get to decide, and you may not always agree with the king or the boss's decision. And that could lead to some problems. The other type of government we discussed, the most popular and common government around the world, is democracy, where the people rule, not the king, not the boss. Decisions are made by the citizens, and there are three features or three characteristics to a democracy. First being that decisions are made through voting, and through voting, the side that gets the most votes wins. We call this majority rule. The majority, or the group with the most votes or most members, gets to write the rules. They get to decide the direction of the nation. That is just one part of democracy. Because if that were the only part, if it were only about voting, then no one would want to join a democracy knowing that there's a chance that you could end up in the minority, the out group, the loser group. And in doing so, you get ruled over. You do not get people ruling. You get ruled by other people. No one wants to join that. So in order to get everyone to buy in, to accept this form of government, you need to add two additional features to a democracy so that everyone feels comfortable joining this, knowing that there are the possibilities that you could at times be in the out group, the loser group, the minority group. So how do we get everyone to buy in? Well, we say that, hey, we can all buy in, and at times you may be in the loser group. But even when you are in the out group, when you are in the minority, and you don't get to ultimately make the decisions or decide the direction of the nation, you still will be protected. Because the winning group must always, when deciding the direction of the nation, and when deciding the rules of the nation, must create rules that are equal, that create people equal, that treat people equal. So although you are in the minority and you don't make the decisions, the new rules that come into place or the rules that changes will not affect you negatively. Also, very similar in the sense of equality is the idea of rule of law, and that is simply that the rule is everyone must follow the law. Everyone is equal under the law. Even the people in the majority, even the people in the in group, the winning group, they still must follow the law. Laws apply to everyone. And when we know this, we say, all right, let's do it. Let's start the democracy. Even though at times I may be in the out group, I will buy in knowing that even if I lose the vote, I'm still going to be treated fairly, equally. The laws will treat us all the same. Is this the perfect system? No, it's not the perfect system. Perfect systems do not exist. The perfect system would be that everyone agrees and everyone gets everything they want. But we know that there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. The trade-off here is you're not always going to get what you want. But at times, we'll get some pretty good things. You at least get some equality. You get some rule of law. You don't always get to make the decisions, but at least you get to make some of the decisions. Again, it's not perfect, but it's the best that we can do. And yeah, at times, equality and rule of law may not get enforced the way that we would like. but it's as close as you're going to get. With a monarchy, you're not going to get equality. You're not going to get rule of law. You're going to get whatever the king thinks is best for the nation. And at times, what's best for the nation under a monarchy or under your boss or CEO or sole proprietor doesn't mean you're going to get equality. The boss is going to do what's best for the business. The king is going to do what's best for the nation, not necessarily what's best for the people, not necessarily what's best for the minority or outgroup or even the majority. He's not going to think about people's individual rights, beliefs, or views. He's going to think about the nation as a whole when he writes laws. What laws strengthen the nation? What decisions and direction for the nation strengthen the nation as a whole or the business as a whole? He's not always going to make decisions based on, let's treat all the employees or citizens fairly and equally. So, neither are perfect, but when we think about what's the best at making decisions and also the best at protecting the rights of the citizens or employees, democracy is going to be the best of those choices. Again, not perfect. There are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And that ties into a larger point that we'll discuss today and in our activity. Perfect is the enemy of good. Or don't let perfect be the enemy of good. You'll hear variations of this phrase. But it simply is that often if you try to do everything, or be everything for everyone, or satisfy all needs, you often fail miserably. If you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing good at all. That is the idea that perfect is the enemy of the good, and I'll show you perfect examples of this. Perfect examples? How can you have good examples of this? Again, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. You cannot do everything, you cannot have everything, you cannot make everyone happy. You just try to do the best that you can and minimize trade-offs. Real life examples. You go on vacation to Cedar Point with your best friend, roller coaster enthusiast. He wants to do everything. He wants to hit every ride. And so you spend the entire day hitting every single ride in the park. You're running all over the place. You're waiting in every single line. You're exhausted. You're worn out. And by trying to have the perfect day at Cedar Point, by doing everything, you have the worst day ever. It is not enjoyable whatsoever because you tried to do something that was perfect. Rather, what if you had just tried to ride, 5 of the best rides? Pick 4 or 6 really good rides rather than to hit all 15 or every single one of them, running around all day. Check this box, check box, gotta get on this ride, get on that ride. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to satisfy all needs at once, because in doing so, you don't enjoy hardly any of it you did. Give me another example. A couple years ago, went on vacation with my in-laws to the Upper Peninsula with the Yoopers up there in Michigan. There are tons of attractions, tons of beaches, tons of parks. There's all kinds of things to do. Unfortunately, they wanted to do them all. And it's a pretty wide, spread out place. So, in an attempt to do everything, we would go to one beach for about 20 minutes, jump back in the car, drive 2 hours to another beach. We would go and spend about 15 minutes there, and then we were jumping back in the car, driving to the park. And then you get to the state park, and you're running around the state park and trying to get as much enjoyment out of it, and then you're running to this restaurant that everybody says to go to, and then we drive another half an hour to another place. And we're only there for 15 minutes, and we drive another 2 hours to another place. And we did that for the entire weekend. We did everything, but in doing everything, we really did nothing other than sit in a car the entire time. It was incredibly exhausting, worst vacation ever. Don't tell my in-laws that. But in trying to do everything, you do nothing. Often in trying to satisfy everybody's needs, you satisfy no one's needs. You want to try to ride every roller coaster ride? Good luck. You want to try to visit every place on vacation? Yeah, you're going to be there, but you're not going to be there for very long. You're going to spend a lot of time in a vehicle. That is the way that works. Perfect is the enemy of good. Don't try to be perfect. Just try to do your best. Same thing with government. We will never have a perfect government system, and our government will never reach perfect policies. If they try to, they will fail miserably. And we have a perfect example of that this previous year when the Republicans took over our government, our Congress. They were voted in, and they had two goals in 2025 in the summer. And those two goals were cut taxes for Americans and also cut government spending. Our government is broke. We're spending too much money. We've got to cut spending. We also need to help out the citizens and cut their taxes. That was the two goals of the GOP, Grand Old Party, also known as the Republicans. Well, they had some problems. They needed 4 more votes at the end. They were coming down to the wire. They needed to get enough votes to pass the new budget that would cut taxes, that would cut spending. But they had to get enough people to vote for it. And so they had a couple of Republicans that said, yes, I will vote yes on your new budget, but only if we continue to spend money on the military. I'll give you my yes vote, but we can't cut the military spending. You can cut everywhere else, but you can't cut military. And I'll vote yes. And another Republican congressman said, yes, I agree. We can cut spending, we can cut taxes, but we can't cut spending on roads in my state. You can cut everywhere else, but I still need to protect this, because if we don't build these roads in my state and I don't bring this home to my people, then I won't get reelected. 2 more Republican congressmen, same idea. Yep, I'll give you my yes vote. We'll pass this budget, but we've got to help the farmers out, because if I go back home to Iowa and I didn't help the farmers out, they're going to kick me out of office and elect another guy. And the other guy said, yeah, I'm right there with you. Cut everything, but just don't cut health care. Because if we cut health care, they're going to vote me out of office. And so there were several congressmen. They're all saying the same thing. And so they all would vote yes. But in the end, no one was cutting any spending. And then you had another guy that said, I'll give you a vote, but we also have to cut spending. I say, yeah, cut taxes, and I say, yeah, cut spending. So in the end, they had to decide, what were they going to do? Could they create the perfect budget? Could they pass the perfect budget? No, they couldn't. They had 2 goals. Their perfect budget would cut taxes and cut spending. And if they tried to do both, they couldn't get enough votes. And if they don't get enough votes, you get no budget at all. Nothing happens. You don't cut taxes and you don't cut spending. If they did not pass this budget, if they did not get the yes votes, they wouldn't cut spending and they wouldn't cut taxes either. So they looked at the situation and they did not try perfect. They did not attempt to get perfect. They understood there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And what they decided was, here's the trade-off. We're going to have to keep spending. So no, we're not going to cut spending. But if we all accept that we can't cut spending, which was one of our major goals in our perfect budget, we can still, though, cut taxes. Because if I give money to the military, to the roads in the state, to the farmers, to the health care, I can get those 4 yes votes. And with getting those 4 yes votes, I can get this budget passed. And ultimately, at the very least, I can cut taxes. Is this perfect? No, because we're still spending money that the government doesn't have. But we are at the very least getting one of the things that we wanted, which was cutting taxes. They achieved this goal by realizing, do not let perfect be the enemy of good. This is not a perfect budget, but it's a good budget. And it gets the country headed in the right direction according to the GOP, the Grand Old Party, the Republicans. There's your example of don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to satisfy all wants and needs. Don't try to make everybody happy. Just make enough people happy. Do the best that you can do. Perfect is the enemy of the good. And this applies to a lot of the things that you will do in life. All right, now for our third type of government. Very simple. And we'll talk more about this government next week, along with republicanism, or also known as a representative democracy. We'll tie those together. We'll tie in representative democracy and oligarchy. But for today, all I need you to know for oligarchy is coming from the word oligos, meaning few, and kratos, meaning rule. So rather than one person ruling, or all the people ruling, we have a select few ruling. In an oligarchy, the people do not rule. The people do not vote. The people do not make decisions. A king does not rule. A king does not make decisions. The decisions, the rules, the direction of the nation are decided by the few, by a select elite. One way of envisioning it is you have multiple kings working together behind the scenes often, making all of the decisions, writing all the rules, enforcing all of the rules for the nation. or three elites that think they are the experts, that think they know what's best. They don't necessarily care what the people want. They, with their genius minds, believe that they should rule over the nation and do what's best for the nation. That is what an oligarchy is. It is not a democracy where people rule. It's not a king where one person rules. It's a government run by several, often elite, very rich, wealthy, connected people. We'll discuss oligarchy more next week, along with the idea of representative democracy, which is also known as republicanism. There it is. There's your three types of government. Quiz coming up over democracy, monarchy, oligarchy, and don't let perfect be the enemy of the good.